Hey everyone, it's Lewis here, and it is with great pleasure that I am presenting my last milestone, Milestone 7, Roadmap to Success. Now, in this milestone, I've focused predominantly on the roadmap and how I came about developing my roadmap for the FI chatbot that I would like to develop in my business area. Hope you enjoy it. So when developing my roadmap, I decided to incorporate obviously what was covered in the module 7, the steps incorporated in the roadmap, and I started with the organizational purpose of our department, which is to automate, modernize, and improve the way that we do things, essentially. Understand the strategic priorities. Again, that's to sort of reduce the manual tasks that are done by humans or employees that could be done better and more efficiently, more effectively by uh, robots or computers. Defining the problem or opportunity. So in this case, the problem or opportunity is that we want to free up more time for help desk employees to solve more higher end, more strategic business goals instead of the sort of more lower value, frequently asked questions that other internal staff have towards us. Identifying the AI opportunity and how that could be implemented, defining the success and what that looks like, the actual solution, the chatbot, how that would look and how that would behave, building, training, and deploying the solution, the AI module or tool, and ongoing measurement. How would we, define a good product, a good service that would be used by our internal staff? How often would they use it? How satisfied are they with the tool, and how much time is it freeing up our help desk staff to in order to work on more important things? As what was recommended in the module 7, when developing my roadmap, I considered a number of things such as who the audience would be. And in my case, it would be key stakeholders and project sponsors. So, it would start with the senior responsible officer of the project, and who's sponsoring the project, which would likely have to go to a deputy secretary or a general manager, who would approve on the funding and the resources and things like that. Then, what does this audience want from the MOBAP? Essentially, they just want a clear direction of what's going to be achieved within the time frame. So, in order for them to make sort of decisions and approvals, and also provide their feedback and advice on it. It would also understand their responsibilities and how they can assist to achieve the outlined goals in the roadmap, and also, when certain milestones are completed, what does that mean for them? How will their area change? How will they need to change their priorities and things like that? Also, as to what information the audience requires. Again, it comes down to when certain milestones would be completed and what the project team would be doing exactly during certain periods. Just basically providing that general direction, and also justifying the funding and resources available, and why, and what it actually would take to actually build the product. And lastly, sort of what's the most effective format to present all of the information? I think initially you'd need to do like a formal presentation of the roadmap with all relevant parties, senior responsible officers, project sponsors, key stakeholders, and also even stakeholders that aren't directly affected but would do have a key interest in the project. It gives them an opportunity, a forum to ask key questions and queries that may have on the roadmap, and also having the roadmap made available after the presentation, because people might have additional questions, follow-up questions after the presentation, and they should be more than welcome to approach the relevant person to be able to ask those questions that they may have informally or formally. Now, just moving on to the actual roadmap itself, I didn't want to be too specific in this case, because I think the thing with a roadmap is if unexpected things come up or things change, priorities change, and things like that, it makes the project seem as though it's a failure if it doesn't actually follow the exact timeline or roadmap, and that's not necessarily true. It's also important to be adaptable and change accordingly in order to develop a product or develop something successful and useful for stakeholders and people to use into the future. But having said that, I've gone from probably the first, February to June next year, 2020. I've gone for probably a more waterfall approach, but it's definitely still has some agile methodologies in there as well, such as forming a multidisciplinary team, and just having everyone in that team running workshops, working together, keeping those communication lines open, keeping things transparent, as well as having some adequate structures in place in order to develop the project in a mature and logical way. Um, but having said that, I haven't really specifically gone for either a waterfall or agile approach. I've more gone for actually what would sort of fit best in my organization, and also taking the positives of both methods of project management and trying to apply that. But for this first release, at least, I've gone for a little bit of both, a little bit of a step-by-step approach. Um, yeah, with different sort of initial kind of planning sessions, workshops, finalizing those business requirements, getting a change management and comms plan out, and then actually once those things have gone, then you can genuinely look at building the system and testing it, in terms of its integration, performance stress testing, penetration testing, and things like that. Then having the users have a look at the product and say, yep, we're happy with that. Or, no, we need this done, we need that done. It doesn't include this, we can't do that, this requirement isn't met, etc. And once they're happy, we would look into actually releasing it and providing a comms approach, training sessions, information, and at the end looking into how the actual release one went and how we could improve upon that, and also future planning for the next for enhancement pack one, and maybe the future enhancements that would be done for the AI tool, the chatbot. And just for the second half of the roadmap, I've gone from July to October. I've done it in the format of, okay, the first release, the initial sort of big bang, I suppose, approach you could call it. Although I don't really want to call it that because it does have some negative connotations there. But I've kind of from that being delivered, I've sort of moved out of that and into sort of more enhancement packs. So kind of a little bit of a Scrum agile methodology, a little bit more incorporated in these last few months, or July to October. So I think it's a good way for the product to be further improved and built upon from the initial build, and gives the product owner, product managers to get a bit of feedback from the stakeholders and say, okay, the stakeholders want a little bit more of this, or a little bit this functionality to improve and things like that. This piece of technical debt might need to be fixed, etc. It gives the product manager and the product owner an opportunity to prioritize those key work pieces of work into the different enhancement packs for each month, and it allows them to improve upon that each week. Each month for with the multidisciplinary team. It's all quite self-explanatory here. But quite a lot of emphasis, I think, needs to still be on stakeholder engagement, communication, actually delivering the product and agreeing upon when those enhancements would be delivered, and also reviewing how those enhancements, or if you'd like to call it a sprint, how those sprints went, how it can be improved for next sprint, and then running workshops for the next enhancement, or in other words, having a sprint planning for each sprint. That's basically how I went from there, and obviously in October it would be sort of an end of the enhancements, and from there hopefully the product would be quite mature, and it would be sort of, any sort of minor enhancement or improvement could be performed in the support team or BAU team, and so discussions would have to be held there of how that's going to be sort of transferred from the sort of project space into the BAU support space. That would need to be definitely discussed and thought over. Well, that's a wrap from me, guys. It's been very fun actually developing these milestones. It's allowed me to sort of critically reflect and analyze how our organization does its projects and how, you know, AI would fit into our organization and how it would be best delivered and things like that. Definitely raises some questions and has some promising outcomes that could be delivered for our organization. So thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. And any questions, queries, or feedback, again, please reply to the relevant Slack link. Thanks, guys. Cheers.